Now let's see the concept of data sufficiency. So in exam what they'll give you is, they'll try to give you two statements and then they will ask you one question. Now in order to answer that question, you might have to use data from the first statement or data from the second statement, or the data present in the first statement as well as second statement, and sometimes you will not be able to answer the question even from data present in the first statement or the second statement. So based on that you are supposed to say what you have used. So here, instead of asking the answer, they will be asking what information you have used in order to solve this question, right? So I'll just give you what type of questions they will ask, in the sense what is the data they will give you before asking the questions. Now you just note it down, you make a note of it. We are going to use the same template to answer all the questions from here, okay? So what you can do is, I'll just read it out or read out all the options here. You just make a note of it, and for all the questions we are going to use the same template, but then in exam they might give you a different template. So in exam you just read what they have given and accordingly you are going to answer it, okay? So for all the questions which I am going to solve in this class, especially in this topic, I am going to use the same concept, same whatever template I have given you here. I'll just explain you the total concept. Now each of the questions below consists of a question and two statements numbered 1 and 2 given below it. So we are going to be they are going to ask us a question, and in order to solve the question they are going to give us information in terms of two statements. Let's call it as statement number 1 and statement number 2. And now you have to decide whether the data provided in these statements are sufficient to answer the question, okay? So now after reading the question you should decide which statement is sufficient, whether it is statement number 1 or statement number 2 or both of them or none of them, like that, okay? Now read both the statements and mark the answer as. So your answer is going to be either 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 based on which one is right according to the question. Now see this, when are you going to say the answer is 1? If the data in the statement 1 alone is sufficient to answer the question, while the data in statement 2 alone is not sufficient to answer the question. Now if you find out that in order to answer the question asked, right, data from statement number 1 alone is sufficient, then give the answer as 1. And if the data in the statement 2 alone is sufficient, then give the answer as 2, while the data in the statement 1 is not sufficient to answer the question. So if you are going to use the statement number 1 but not 2, then the answer is going to be 1. If you are going to use statement number 2 but not 1, then the answer is going to be 2. If the data either in statement number 1 alone or in statement number 2 alone is sufficient to answer the question, then your answer is going to be 3. So what does it mean? Either you are using statement number 1 to answer it or statement number 2 to answer it. If both of them are going to give you the answer, then answer is going to be 3. Either statement number 1 or statement number 2, okay? Now if the data given in both statements 1 and 2 together is not sufficient to answer the question, then your answer is going to be 4. If you are not able to answer the question at all by using the data given in statement number 1 and 2, then the answer is going to be 4. Now the answer is going to be 5 if the data given in both statements 1 and 2 together is sufficient to answer the statement, which means if you are going to use both the statements in order to answer the question, then the answer is going to be 5. So what I'll ask you is, just make a note of all these options and keep them aside, and while I'm solving the examples, you just go through this and answer appropriately. Now in the exam, for every such question they are going to give you all these instructions, right? But then these instructions need not always be the same like this, so you should be very careful while reading them and choose the correct option according to the question given. Now with examples, you will get used to this, okay? Let's see one example here. Now if you observe this, in how many days will 7 men complete a work? So they are saying that 7 men, if they are working, how many days will it take to complete it? Now in order to solve this question, if data is given in two statements, statement number 1 and statement number 2. Now you should know, or you should find out which statement if you use, you will be able to answer this question. Now let's talk about statement number 1. Statement number 1 is saying that 3 men, 2 women and 4 boys together can complete the same work in 9 days. Now by using this statement number 1, we have already seen that concept in time and work. So without knowing the individual capacities of women and boys, I will not be able to find out the individual capacity of men from the given data. Unless I have the individual capacity of the men, I will not be able to find out this answer, right? Because the question is completely about men. Now coming to the information given in the second statement, they are saying that 13 men can complete the same work in 35 days. So what you can do is, by using the second one you can solve it. I'll show you how to solve it. Now the total work is going to be 13 men are going to work for 35 days, right? Therefore it is 13 into 35 men days effort is required in order to complete this work, right? Therefore the total effort required in order to finish the work is 13 into 35 men days. Now how many people are working? 7 men are working. Now if 7 men are working, then I don't know how many days they are going to work. Let me say some x days. If 7 men are working for x days, if they have to complete the work, then their effort should be equal to this effort, right? Now this has to be equal to 13 into 35, right? So what do you get? Now you are going to get x as the value of x as 13 into 35 divided by 7, which means 65. So anyway, you are able to find out that 65 number of days are required, but we are not interested in exact answer. What we are interested in is, this is the information using which I am able to solve this question. Therefore, according to the options given, in the I shown you earlier, you can clearly see that first one is not right. Why? First one is saying that the statement number 1 is used to solve this question, but not statement number 2, which is not right. Now if you look at the second one, option 2, then it is right. Why? Statement number 2 information is used, but not statement number 1 information, right? Therefore the answer for this one is 2. Alright, so for all the questions which we are going to solve here, I am going to use the same information that I have given you earlier. You just keep it aside and then go through it, but then don't try to memorize it, because the options might change in every question. I mean, not in our examples, but in exam. Okay, always read the instructions and then solve them. Okay, fine.
Hi, if you are planning to do masters, then doing masters abroad is better than doing masters in India. I'll give you all the reasons. So, first reason is, out of 1 lakh students who take GATE every year, there are only 500 seats in old IITs. So all the IITs put together have an acceptance rate of 0.5%, and universities better than IITs, they have very good acceptance rate like 30%, 40%, but all the IITs put together have an acceptance rate of 0.5%. And if you are working hard to get into IIT Bombay's ranking is 177. And IIT Roorkee's ranking is 400. If you are happy to get into IIT Roorkee, then getting into universities better than IIT Roorkee is easier compared to getting into IIT Roorkee. And looking at the salaries for computer science, for software jobs, if you have done your masters in computer science in US, the salaries are ranging from 80 lakhs per year to 1.2 crore per year. So even if you take an average of 1 crore per year, your savings will be much higher than the salaries in India. After taxes and your cost of living, you can easily save 40 to 50 lakhs per year. And in India, the maximum jobs that you get is around 30 lakhs. So your savings will be much greater than the salaries in India. And these are all the services that we provide. University shortlisting. So depending on your profile, we will shortlist what are the universities that you have to apply. And statement of purpose building, and then LOR guidance, and GRE and English test assistance, and education loan assistance. So you don't have to have any collateral, which means without any security, now you can get education loan. Getting education loan is very simple these days, and whatever the amount of fee that you have a range of universities. You can apply for 10 lakh universities, 20 lakh universities, or 50 lakh universities. But whatever it is, you are going to get complete education loan, and you can pay off your education loan in 1 year after you get a job. And then we do visa assistance, mock visa interviews, and then connecting with the university alumni. So now you might ask why we should join Game of Visas. So the answer is we have 90% success rate, 99% success rate. And these are all the destinations that we guide the students to. So we guide students to any country that you want to go. So now it is not just USA. We guide to UK, Germany, Australia, Canada. So we guide students to all the countries. We work with all the destinations. And if you are interested in going abroad, you have to just drop us a message on this WhatsApp number 9494 555 454. Okay, thank you.